Hello. So in this video, I thought it would be nice to teach you how I teach people, like, and how I'm going about this course. In one of my videos, I gave a big overview of the course. It had this fancy diagram here. So I thought we'll look at that again, and then I'll just tell you a bit of the finer details about teaching. The first thing to say is that this teaching method is discussion based, it's Socratic. We're asking questions about the students. And there are reasons that this engages the students. So here are a number of things that I've done to engage the students. The first is pretty diagrams. So we've set out a big map of the course. We've said what week each thing is occurring in so that the students don't get lost. And then by the end of it, hopefully they'll understand the picture of the whole course. In this diagram, I've included key points that students need to get for each week. Hopefully, again, this makes it very memorable, including a point that will be made throughout the course that God speaks into all of it. In other words, theology integrates into all of these things. Other ways that I've tried to engage the students is that you have this handout here. Because we don't have power, and we can't use PowerPoint, therefore, I've been relying on handouts, which actually have been more engaging than just asking the students to look at a screen. I don't have a pen on me. I don't really need a pen. I'll use this Apple Pencil to point you to the different parts of this handout. So why are handouts good for engaging students who might otherwise disengage? One thing is if you make it visually engaging. So you can see we have a little timeline here, got a little timeline here, and we even have a little map of where we are in the course. So it just says you are here. And hopefully that keeps the students engaged with, like, you can doze off in a lecture, but at least you know this is what the lecture is about. The reason I've put two timelines here, they are deliberately incomplete timelines. You can even see from the main diagram, it actually talks about Adam, the Greeks, the medieval period. And this section has been broken up into two timelines. The first timeline from Adam to the Greeks, the second from the Greeks to the medieval period. That doesn't really matter. What matters is this. I'm asking the students to fill in the timeline as they go along. So first we go from the beginning, and I have a whiteboard with the same timeline on it, and so I'm drawing along with them. And I just ask them to write the name Adam. And then as I make each point across this timeline, I am only making one point. And the point that I want to make for this week is that old science is similar to new science, or rather old knowledge is similar to new knowledge. My motive for doing this is that when I was taught the scientific revolution, which we'll cover in week 5, the point was emphasized that modern science is unique, impressive, and different in various ways. And so for this week, I wanted to make one point. And again, this is just an example, so I'm not going to go into detail, but this is the one point I want to make. Old science is like modern science. And so every single part of this lecture is just making the same point. And I'm having the students draw out the same point over and over again so that it's more engaging. So when we look at Adam, we look at taxonomy. And what do I mean by this? I mean the thing on the next page. We have a number of quotes, a number of examples, and the first quote is this: Adam and taxonomy. And it has this passage. It says, now out of the ground, the Lord God, blah, 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 formed every bird. And that's, a very beautiful thing. And God then asks, man, what will you call the animals? And whatever the man called every living thing, that was its name. And so God is asking Adam to categorize things. This is something biologists do all the time. They categorize things in terms of species. It's an immense task. It's extremely difficult. It affects how we measure biodiversity. If you redefine a species, suddenly biodiversity goes up, not because more ants exist, but because I've split the existing group of ants into 60 different subspecies, which now are affecting how I measure biodiversity. The point of that is simply to say that even from the very beginning, according to the Bible, people have been doing taxonomy. And I'll ask the students to just write the word Adam, and then above that to write the word taxonomy. And then all I do is relate that to modern science and say, we still do this in modern science. We still have to observe nature and distinguish the difference between things. And I'm doing that for each point. So we look at Solomon and wisdom in nature. You look at ants, you see how organized they are. That's a passage in the Bible. It says, go to the ant, they prepare ahead of season. You can do the same. And again, we use wisdom in nature all the time. Electronic engineers like to look at photosynthesis. It's a very efficient process, and they use that to see how you can make a 100% efficient system, because in that case, photosynthesis is, in at least the beginning stages, 100% efficient. And it's like, how on earth do you do that? And we even do it with AI, neural networks. People are inspired by the brain. How does the brain work? How do we learn? How can we copy that? And so modern technology is something that has been learning from things that pre-exist us, like plants, like neurons, and all of these things. And so again, I just asked them to write the word Solomon and wisdom, and so on and so forth. I'm going throughout different philosophers: Thales, Anaximander, Anaximenes, the Pythagoreans, Heraclitus, Zeno, then Socrates, Plato, Aristotle. We're going through all of these Greeks, and we're just making the same point. Now, why am I giving you an outline of this lesson? Well, I hope you see that at each point, I'm asking them to write new things. So even if they get bored, they have to kind of like they have to wake up and just come down to the page again and start writing. So that is the structure of the lesson as the handout engages them more. The other way that I try to engage students is discussion-based. So I'll show you this on my worksheet here, or rather on my master document. So here's my master document. This master document contains every single week of teaching, and I'm currently working through it, just trying to simplify things and streamline it. And the way that I engage students is I ask them questions. So you can see I have questions here. In fact, let's bring it to this week. All my questions are in red. All the points I want to make are in black. And if I have to write something on the whiteboard, I just say, write these down. And then I make each of these points. I have key words in bold, so I can just glance at the page and be like, okay, that's the point I'm making. And that makes it easier not to get lost. And then the green stands for things that are on the example sheet. So you can see this is green, and it is the same passage that we just looked at earlier here. And again, I'm asking students to do group activities. So it's not only am I asking them questions, but the whole class is laid out in groups of 5, and each class has about 20 or 25 students. And so they're usually about 4 or 5 groups of 5 students each. And those students, I'm asking them to talk to each other. So again, if they stop paying attention, then when a group activity comes, it just seems a bit rude when their fellow students are talking to each other for them then not to engage. So if this person's asleep, these students are talking to each other, and so they're drawn back in again. And again, it engages students. So here we have this group activity. So what does God invite Adam to do? Pretty easy. I just tell them to say what they see. God invites him to name all the birds of the heavens and all the beasts of the field. And then I give them a group activity, which is, how would you approach naming all the animals? Forget the textbooks, forget YouTube, forget everything that you knew about naming animals. How would you do that? And I give them 2 minutes, and then they come together and they decide, okay, how would we do this? And they elect someone to then tell the rest of the class how they would do it. And it's quite fun. Like, here they have good banter. They don't mind me saying something like, okay, who are you going to throw under the bus? Banter also keeps attention, so that's good too. And I ask them, okay, who are you going to throw under the bus? And the group votes who they're going to ask to tell the rest of the activity. And even those people who are more shy, it has helped them come out of their shell. It has helped them develop more presentation techniques. And as long as the atmosphere is friendly, rather than this feeling like a coercive thing, I can see that they, from their own reports and stuff, they seem to really enjoy this kind of engaging thing. And it means that they're prepared to give an answer to the question because they know they might have to at some point. So as long as they opt in to come to classes, they know what the deal is, that they might have to speak in a group setting, and they've been engaged more for it. So there are a few tools that I've used to engage students, and it seems to have been working quite well. In summary, handouts are great. Having a map of where you're going in the course is great. You are here. Having a main point that you know you're doing for each lecture and just relating everything to that point is great. And repeatedly referring people back to the handout. And also the last thing, asking students to read out the examples in each part of the handout. Because again, that gets other people to listen. The last thing I'll say about groups is that students don't like it when you're, say, if they disengage, if you walk up to them and just loom over them to make sure they're paying attention to you, that's not great. They'll resent you for that. But if you have a group activity, without even trying, there's this kind of shared accountability that students have where you want to take part if everyone else is taking part. And so that's another thing in terms of why it's better to engage in groups, in my view, than just to engage from the front or to be a nanny and try and make sure everyone's paying attention. Yes, there you go. There are some tips about teaching, how I teach students and try to engage them. I hope this is helpful or interesting, and if not, either way, hope you have a good day. God bless. Bye.